What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Jeremy coming to you with another video, and today we are going to talk about the reception of the Star Wars prequels and the reception of the Star Wars sequels. Now, very interesting dynamic we have here. Obviously, very strong reactions for both of these film series, very divisive reactions, but that's where the similarities end. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, I think I bring a little bit of credibility here, considering that I am a longtime prequel defender. I have been battling with the prequel haters for a long time. I have been very, very forceful and very, very vocal in my displeasure with the Star Wars prequels haters because I've said they can't shut up. They need to move on with their life. They need to accept reality, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I have went in on the prequel haters. I really have. And now, obviously, I am going to battle with the sequel defenders because I am a sequel hater. Even though I like The Force Awakens, even though I love The Force Awakens, Last Jedi has made me really, really rethink that. But with the sequel defenders, they have really opened my eyes to the prequel haters. And I'm going to tell you why. So, obviously, we have the prequels. There was so much anticipation with these movies coming out. The lead up to The Phantom Menace was unbelievable. Something we had never seen at the time. And it took people several viewings to understand that Phantom Menace really wasn't that good. It really wasn't that good. And a lot of people felt betrayed by George Lucas. They hyped this thing up to be the next biggest thing ever, and ultimately they walked away incredibly disappointed. And I've never disputed that, by the way. I've never disputed that The Phantom Menace disappointed a lot of people. It really did. And then we move into the Attack of the Clones, and Attack of the Clones has a lot of problems. It really does. Even as a prequel defender, Attack of the Clones has some problems. And then we have Revenge of the Sith, which is my second favorite Star Wars movie. But the prequels have always had this aura around them, and it always would create this amazing response from people, generally a lot of hatred. And a lot of that hatred came from the original trilogy fans because the prequels actually brought in an entire new fan base, a younger demographic of fans that were introduced to Star Wars by the prequels, which was absolutely amazing. And that was one of the things I would always argue against was just like the prequels did for this young generation what the original trilogy did for us. It introduced them to Star Wars. It introduced them, and it's a beautiful thing. And then that younger demographic would eventually get a little bit older, and then they would go, so what's this original trilogy that all these older dudes keep talking about? And then they would go back and watch the original trilogy, and it would blow their mind, and they would really get it. That's a beautiful thing. That's gorgeous. That's amazing. But the old guard would continue to just complain about the prequels, complain about Jar Jar, complain about everything. George Lucas raped my childhood. You know, they would vilify George, and that's where I would stand up for George. And I was very vocal about this. I was very forceful. I was very aggravated with these prequel haters because they would never stop running their mouths. They would never stop bringing the prequels up. Even when the discussion didn't even warrant it, they would bring the prequels up. But now that we've moved into the sequels, I've started to really look back upon all of those battles I had with those prequel haters, and it's changed my perspective greatly. So, to all you prequel haters that I went after, to all you prequel haters that I basically said you need to shut up and move on with your life, I think I understand you a lot more now. I definitely appreciate you a lot more because at the end of the day, you did love Star Wars and you do love Star Wars. And your frustration with the prequels was because you love Star Wars. And yes, while I think you had a lot of hyperbole, I think that you were insane and just downright ridiculous at times. It was all because you loved a galaxy far, far away. And I can appreciate that. Because now we've moved into the sequel era. And in the sequel era, now I love The Force Awakens. Everybody knows this. Now we've moved on from The Force Awakens into another little film called The Last Jedi. But before we get into that, let's go over it. So the lead into The Force Awakens, amazing hype. incredible, broke box office records. It was truly special. It was truly special. And before The Force Awakens and after The Force Awakens, my enthusiasm for as a Star Wars fan was as high as it's ever been. But that doesn't mean that I didn't see what others saw well before me. I noticed the identity politics. I noticed this aspect of it, but I wasn't willing to acknowledge it yet because I trusted Disney. I trusted the creative process. People like world-class bullshitters, Jeff, he was well ahead of me in this aspect. I know a lot of people view me as the voice of, the upset Star Wars fans, and I appreciate that, but I don't claim that I was the first to this party because I wasn't. I was a little late to the party. But once I got here, I kicked the fucking door down and I showed up. But, moving beyond The Force Awakens, that's when I really started to see the problems. Rogue One. I didn't like Rogue One as much as a lot of people. I do like Rogue One, I just don't love Rogue One. Rogue One had problems. Rogue One had problems, and the problem that stood out to me was the fact that it felt like they did not want to cast a white male in the lead role or the lead role of any of the Rebellion characters. And it stood out like a sore thumb to me because I thought the Rebellion characters were incredibly boring. And for a Star Wars movie, you can't have boring characters. You can't have boring characters leading your Star Wars movie. So that's where I started really noticing the identity politics playing into this. Now, of course, obviously Rogue One made $1 billion. If it wouldn't have had Vader, it would have probably made about 500 or 600 million. That's just the truth. But it did. It made $1 billion and it had Vader. Kill the past, unless we need it for marketing, right? Then we moved into Battlefront 2. Now, Battlefront 2, I was at Star Wars Celebration. I was on the Battlefront panel. I'll never forget, I was in the room for the panel. I'll never forget, right before the panel started, they asked, are there any girl gamers in the crowd? And I remember how awkward that felt. And I'm like, why would you ask a gender-specific question? Why would you do that? Nobody really screamed, a few people. Then we got the Iden reveal, which, I actually liked Iden in the game, but the campaign was really bad, but I did like Iden. But I started asking myself, what are we doing here, Disney? It's really obvious what you're doing now. You're pushing a pro-female agenda. This is ridiculous. And I started getting really frustrated with it. And then we move into The Last Jedi. Now, The Last Jedi, we all know how this is all played out. The Last Jedi is not my problem. And I've said this. Yes, it's not a good movie. It's a problem, but it's not the problem. The problem is the reaction from Lucasfilm. The reaction from Lucasfilm is what has broken Star Wars for me. And now when I talk to sequel defenders, I don't feel like I'm talking to Star Wars fans anymore. And that is what's made me look back and appreciate all of those battles I had with the prequel haters. Because those prequel haters, for as much as they drove me crazy and as much as they aggravated me, god damn if they weren't Star Wars fans. They really were. They really were Star Wars fans. Now, when I'm talking to sequel trilogy defenders, now I know there's a few people out there that are longtime Star Wars fans that will defend the sequel trilogy, specifically The Last Jedi. I know you're out there. I know, I've talked to you. But the majority of the sequel defenders are not Star Wars fans. They are not. Do you know how I know this? Because they constantly tell all of us that we're intimidated by diversity, that we're intimidated by strong women, that we're intimidated by minorities. That is not a Star Wars fan. That is a person that got involved with Star Wars because of the political propaganda being pushed into it. That is not a Star Wars fan. A Star Wars fan would understand that Star Wars fans have never been intimidated by diversity. Never been intimidated by women or non-white males. A Star Wars fan understands this, fundamentally understands this. This is not a complicated issue. So I look back on all of the prequel battles I had, and at no point did I have to defend myself from identity politics. I never had to defend myself of being called a racist or a sexist or a misogynist. I never had to do that because I was dealing with Star Wars fans. Now, I'm not dealing with Star Wars fans, and neither are you. We are dealing with people that are using this IP as nothing more than a political soapbox, something they can use to push their agenda. And the bad thing is the people that are Star Wars fans that are defending this Last Jedi and the sequel trilogy, they have been moved into the NPC crowd. They are now NPCs. They are non-playable characters. They have been corrupted because they are running through the same narrative that everybody else. Oh, they're just intimidated because Kathleen Kennedy's a strong woman. No, we're intimidated because Kathleen Kennedy doesn't give a damn about Star Wars. That's what's the problem. And we are going to continue to call this out. But the bigger problem too is Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm is nothing more than a far left-wing political propaganda network now. That's all they are. Everybody that works at Lucasfilm, they have a political opinion. They're not scared to tell you. But guess what? It's only one side of the political argument that we always hear. Now again, I don't really care what your opinion is at Lucasfilm with politics. I really don't. And I shouldn't know what your opinion is. Yet I know what everybody at Lucasfilm thinks about Trump. And they all hate him. And that's fine. You can hate Trump. But if you as a company have nothing but vocal people working for you and they're vocal about their politics, why do I never hear not one single person at Lucasfilm that's a pro-Trump supporter? Why have I never heard that? Could it be that you guys have hired nothing but a far left-wing echo chamber? That's exactly what it is. Either that or anybody that's at Lucasfilm that's a Trump supporter is too scared to speak out. Either one of those answers is a bad answer for you, Lucasfilm. But that's the company that's pushing this narrative forward. So when you talk to sequel trilogy defenders, you're not talking to Star Wars fans because all they want to do is call you a racist or a sexist. You're talking to people that have done nothing but get involved in something because they are opportunists. Because they see an opportunity to jump on the biggest IP in the history of movies and push their political propaganda. And then they run into real Star Wars fans that have been through 40 years of this, and we've seen it all. And for them to sit there and do nothing but call us racists and sexist and misogynist proves that they are not Star Wars fans. You're just not. That is the bottom line here. So Lucasfilm, you got a lot of work to do. You have a huge year in 2019, and you have done a terrible, terrible job of managing Star Wars. We went from $2 billion. Then we went to Rogue One, $1 billion. Thank you, Vader. Then we went to The Last Jedi, $1.3 billion. Major drop, but we knew people were going to go see it. But that second week drop was massive. And then we moved into Solo. And you thought Star Wars was invincible. You thought that Star Wars could survive social justice politics. And you got a wake-up call, didn't you? Because it did less than $400 million. So Lucasfilm, 2019, you got Star Wars Celebration. You got Episode 9. You're opening Star Wars Land at Disney World and Disneyland. You have a big year ahead of you. And things are not looking very positive, are they? You have a big problem on your hands. And the problem is the person running your company has no leadership skills. She has surrounded herself with nothing but people that will repeat what her beliefs are. She's not a leader. She is not a true leader, and she is not a Star Wars fan. And you have nothing but people that will blindly follow anything she says because that's what she's hired. She has not hired people that will challenge her. She has not hired people that will grow Star Wars. She has hired people that will push the political propaganda that she wants. So moving forward, we have to understand that right now, Star Wars is on life support. It's only on life support because of the fans. We're the only thing keeping it alive. We have to save it. And by saving it, we have to continue to call out all of the nonsense going on. We have to continue to let everybody know that we are Star Wars fans and we are not going to stand by. So even if we had the prequel battles and we had the prequels fans and we had the prequel haters that were constantly going at it, even as somebody that just as about 2 years ago was calling out Star Wars fans for you. What did I say? I had a video that says, nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. Yes, you read damn right I said it, and I meant it. But now with all of the identity politics that are involved with Star Wars, It is time for us to all, Star Wars fans, come together. Come together to push against this identity politics that has been a cancer to Lucasfilm. It is a disease, and we have to do something about it. So at the end of the day, all we can do is continue to speak out about what is going on, because they have attacked the fans to a point that I have never seen from a company like this. I've never seen anything like it. I can't believe that this company operates under the Disney banner. But that's what happens when you have someone like Kathleen Kennedy running your company and surrounding this company with people that don't care about Star Wars. She brought this story group in what, 2013? Because Lucasfilm was purchased in 2012, late 2012. So 2013, the story group was created. These people don't know Star Wars. They don't care about Star Wars. They are there for the identity politics. We have to stand up against it. Do we care about Star Wars? Do we want to fight for it? That's what I'm going to keep doing. So no, I'm not going to stop making videos. I'm not going to stop calling out Disney and Lucasfilm. I'm not going to stop calling out Kathleen Kennedy. And as long as we have the support of this community, we have a fighting chance. You guys have a good day, and we will talk to you later.